Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Leo Talks. As I've advertised and publicized and made known, I'm going to invite on interesting people to come and tell their story. There's a lot of people who are doing a lot of interesting things to make this world a better place. And so I'm going to invite various ones to come forward, and we're going to post them here. And today, I'm very fortunate to have as a guest Sue Woollard. Now, Sue comes to us with a lot of experience and around the matter of meditation and centering prayer. So welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. You and I can have a chat. Before we get into talking about centering prayer, Sue, could you give me a little history about yourself? I know that you've had a spiritual journey, which makes you into what I call a wise woman in the area of spirituality and other areas as well. So could you tell us a little about your background or experiences which brought you to becoming a spiritual prayer yourself, centering prayer, and how you've continued to teach courses on this?
I guess about 47 years ago, I was in Nepal, had a very rich experience, which as a result, I went down to Rishikesh, India, and learned transcendental meditation. And very soon after became a teacher. I was 25 at the time. And practiced and was a teacher for 30 years of transcendental meditation. But at around the 25-year mark, I felt, I felt I was missing something. And what it was a personal relationship with Jesus. And so I researched different forms of Christian meditation, the centering prayer, by Thomas Keating, which we're going to be talking about a little bit more. And tried it. I also looked into John Main's Christian meditation, and which uses a mantra, and they use a word which is almost the last word in Revelation in the Bible, and it's called Maranatha. So it's a mantra meditation, and tried that, and the third one was the Jesus Prayer, which is part of the Eastern Church. When the church separated to Eastern and Western, the Eastern kept the Jesus Prayer, that form of interior prayer or meditation, but the Roman Church did not. The Western Church did not. And I tried those three and decided on centering prayer. And have been practicing for about 16 years now, and became a teacher centering prayer as well. And I feel that I was incredibly blessed at a young age, at the age of 25, with a passion to teach meditation. And for 30 years, it was transcendental meditation. And for the past 16, it's been centering prayer. And I find it such a wonderful gift. Because as you know, if a person is working within their gifts, when they are doing whatever their passion is, it's not work. It's a pure joy. And for me, the past 47 years, that's what it is, pure joy, to help people embark on an interior journey through meditation, through TM, and now centering prayer.
Before we get really into centering prayer, I'd like you to tell us also, you mentioned one other time to me that you walked the El Camino. Tell us about that, because I think that made an impact on your life.
I first heard about the Camino probably 22 years before I actually went on it. I was ironing in our family room on a Sunday afternoon and put the TV on just for company. The children were with Mark, and there was a documentary, which I found out later was on the Camino de Santiago, and which is an ancient pilgrimage route people have walked it for about 1,300 years. It's in Spain, and the end is where St. James, the apostle, is buried. And I became enthralled, and so read every book I possibly could on the Camino. There wasn't very much available in the early 90s, but it was quite a journey. And it wasn't until about 22 years after that that the children were grown up and on their own. And I decided I was going to retire from World Vision. I was working at World Vision Canada, and went on the Camino for the first time. And people who go on the Camino, you're asked many times every day, what is your reason for
Right.
walking the Camino? And there are a
Hmm.
lot of people who don't do it for spiritual reasons, who just do it for
Right.
health or whatever, seeing this countryside. But for me, it was definitely a Camino of faith. And on that first Camino, I did it 3 times. On that first Camino, it was to ask for God's guidance in what I should do in retirement, because I had just retired. And so
Hmm.
that was quite a transforming experience, that first one. Very Christ focused. Met a lot of absolutely wonderful people, but it was an interior journey. And if anybody wants to do the Camino, I highly recommend that they be intentional when they
Hmm.
walk it.
Mr. Avery, do you know why you're walking the way?
I suppose I'm doing it for Daniel.
You walk the way for yourself, only for yourself.
Well, then I guess I don't have a clue, Captain.
Mr. Avery, I have also lost a child. I wish you a buen camino. Enjoy your pilgrimage. Both of you.
And for me, the intention was to have it as a spiritual pilgrimage, which it ended up being at first, and then I did it twice after.
You talked earlier, Sue, about an interior journey. What's the connection between walking the El Camino and your interior journey?
So I was already a woman of faith, and I had done a lot of reading on the Camino and knew that people who walk it with the intention of spiritual development, spiritual growth, interior growth, when your radar are up for that, then what happens is I found that people were brought into my life on the Camino. It's called a Camino family, who were instrumental in allowing me to make it a spiritual interior journey. Just like meditation itself is an interior journey, this is an outward manifestation of an interior journey. And on my second Camino in 2014, I met a woman from Australia, and we stayed in albergues, which are like hostels. She was quite interested when I would, at the end of the day, sit on my bed and close my eyes and meditate. And first thing in the morning, I'd sit on my bed and close my eyes and meditate. And as we moved farther west, she'd say, "Well, what were you doing when you were sitting on your bed? I noticed that you're doing something in the morning, the afternoon." And I said, "Yes, I practice centering prayer." And that was fine the first time. And then, a couple of days later, "Can you tell me more about centering prayer?" Until finally, in the end, she asked me if I would teach her how to practice centering prayer. And for me, that was the cherry on the top of that second Camino, for a good friend of mine who I'm still in contact with, to ask me to teach her centering prayer. That was wonderful.
I think in some ways, Sue, with your first journey on the Camino and then their centering prayer, did it kind of come together for you when you practiced centering prayer as well as walking the Camino?
Absolutely. The Because I was practicing a centering prayer and had a deep desire for 20 years prior, educating myself on what the Camino was, I knew what it could be. I knew that it could be a deep and profound spiritual journey. And that was my desire and intention in walking it. And Of course, it's a twice daily practice, both transcendental meditation and centering prayer. The recommendation is to practice twice daily. And then I know a lot of people have great difficulty with this. They have busy lives. But for me, I never had difficulty with that my whole life for 47 years because it's for me it was a priority, and I noticed a profound difference in my everyday life. So having those two, having centering prayer as a spiritual practice that I could do while I was walking the Camino for 43 days, the two just went hand in glove, and each made the other experience much more rich and profound.
Earlier on, Sue, you mentioned about being introduced to centering prayer as a form of because meditation has many different models, and you've chosen centering prayer. And Father Keating, somehow there's again another connection in your life where you got connected with him and his teachings, and did that introduce you to centering prayer, or can you give me a little bit of history on your beginning of centering prayer?
Okay, that's a good question as well. So, when I was doing research, when I decided that I wanted to move to a Christian form of meditation, I researched the three. I researched the Jesus Prayer and did it, and also John Main's Christian meditation. And it's through my internet research and research and reading books that I found out about the other. I found out about centering prayer, got a couple of books, got in touch with the organization, although I didn't have very much to do with it. For centering prayer, they have what's called the boxed set. So I didn't know anyone who was in centering prayer in Toronto, but I bought the boxed set. There are lots of DVDs and videos and stuff. So I listened to all of them. And then one day decided I would change from practicing transcendental meditation to practicing centering prayer, because I knew that I didn't want to continue with transcendental meditation, although I was incredibly grateful to Maharishi for what he has done. I really felt a bigger, deeper connection to Jesus in practicing centering prayer as opposed to practicing transcendental meditation.
I think as you tell your story, Sue, I get a real sense of moving ever more deeply into your own spirituality, your own spiritual life, and the growth and transformation. And maybe you could talk a little more about that, of how it has really been a transforming energy, a power within you over those years.
Being in union with God isn't something that happens overnight. It's something that you make a commitment
Oh, yeah.
to practice twice a day, every day, because I felt that I was experiencing change, becoming less anxious. After practicing centering prayer every morning and afternoon, I read back Galatians, the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. And against these things, there is no law. And I felt over time in doing centering prayer and saying that prayer after as my after centering prayer, that my life was starting to manifest more those qualities of deeper love, deeper joy, deeper peace, deeper patience, and all the other things. So I felt the transformation was happening. And in teaching centering prayer, there was great appreciation of people learning centering prayer through Thomas Keating, because he has videos and I facilitate. But I feel that I'm not a great teacher. I'm not a great public speaker, but I make up for it in enthusiasm.
Well, supposing, Sue, I never heard of centering prayer, and you said, Leo, I'm going to teach you how to pray. And I'm expecting you're going to teach me some Our Fathers and Hail Marys. And then you say, no, no. You're just going to be learning to meditate, and our model is centering prayer. Where would you go from there?
The thing that you just asked was you thought that I would be teaching you rote prayers, Catholic rote prayers. And those are absolutely wonderful.
That's right.
And centering prayer is never take the place of those things. So whatever routines you have, whatever your prayer life currently is, you can keep all of that and continue with that if it enriches you, but you can add something called centering prayer. And it is a form of meditation that what it does is it transcends ordinary thinking and introduces you to the dynamic of interior prayer, interior purification. So for a lot of people, they are not aware of the spiritual level of their being. And that is what people encounter in practicing centering prayer. I find that the church in general, Christian church in general, is not bearing witness to its mystical roots, because there seems to be missing in a lot of churches a deeper dimension of prayer, a much deeper personal relationship with Jesus that can come with practicing a spiritual practice twice a day. And so you asked about centering prayer, and I'm not going to teach you centering prayer, but what I will do is go over the guidelines. So the first is choose a sacred word as the symbol of your intention to consent to God's presence and action within. So we use a word, what's called a sacred word, and it isn't one that's given to you. It's one that you choose, and there are all different kinds of sacred words, and the word itself doesn't matter. It's a word that is used that has impact for you. So it might be Jesus, it might be God, it might be truth, it might be love, it might be blessing, it might be breath of God. Usually it's just 1 to 2 syllables. Part of learning centering prayer is deciding on your sacred word. The second is sitting comfortably and with your eyes closed. Settle briefly and silently introduce the sacred word that you've chosen as a symbol of your consent to God's presence and action within. And you'll notice that the first 2 guidelines, the last bunch of words, are all the same. And those are consent to God's presence and action within. And that's repeated. Thomas Keating decided to repeat that in the guidelines because he wants people who learn centering prayer to realize that God is already present within us. And he loves us so much that there will be action or activity or transformation starting almost from the first meditation. Right. So those 2 things where God is present within us, and because he is present within us, and we are starting a new form of spiritual practice, that there will be stuff will start to happen. Good stuff in your life, not only during the meditation, but also outside of meditation in our everyday life. The third guideline says, when engaged with your thoughts, and thoughts include anything that happens during meditation. Thoughts include body sensations, feelings, images, reflections, anything that goes through your mind or happens in your body during centering prayer. So when engaged with your thoughts, return ever so gently to the sacred word, because that sacred word is what you come back to whenever your thoughts are moved away. And in the beginning, it might seem as if you're going back to it all the time. And that probably is the case until your mind and body get used to being a centering prayer meditator. And then you will spend less time saying your sacred word and enjoying the stillness and quiet of centering prayer. And at the end of the prayer period, remain in silence with eyes closed for a couple of minutes. That's the fourth guideline. And that's important. Just because you stop saying your sacred word inside, it doesn't mean that the transformation, the changes that are going on, the action that's mentioned in guidelines 1 and 2 will stop immediately. So we don't open our eyes as soon as we've stopped saying our sacred word inside. What we do is sit there quietly for 2 minutes without saying the sacred word. And that
Mhm.
transition period between the silence of centering prayer and whatever we're going to do afterwards, prepare dinner, go to school, university, be a mom, a dad, go to work. What that does is it allows the transition from the silence of meditation to whatever you do during the day to be profound, and whatever kind of healing or action was going on the moment you stopped saying your sacred word will be able to be released before you open your eyes and go about your day. So another important thing about centering prayer is that we bookend the practice of meditation with a beginning prayer and an ending prayer. It can be as simple as, Lord, be with me while I practice centering prayer today. And the ending prayer could be a glory be, it could be the Our Father, it could be some scripture that you've memorized, but we start and end with a prayer, with a prayer.
I
So
think when
it's simple. You can see it's very simple guidelines, but um, it's really good to learn centering prayer from a what's called a commissioned presenter or a teacher of centering prayer. And I've been doing that for the past 2 years on Zoom during COVID. And it's been extremely successful because you can gather people not only from one church, or you can gather people from lots of different places. And one or two people who hear about it, everybody can come together and in a community to learn centering prayer. And learning centering prayer is a commitment of one evening a week for 5 weeks. It's usually a Thursday that I offer it, and it's from 7 until 9, roughly. And what happens is during those 5 weeks, a community is formed. And
Mhm.
community is really important in order for people to continue, be supported, and continue practicing centering prayer. And I offer once weekly meeting where we practice centering prayer. We also have a video or by Thomas Keating or sometimes Richard Rohr, and we have a discussion about it. So it's a
Mhm.
way of touching base, and people enjoy it. Yeah.
I think too myself. So many long years ago, I got introduced to meditation. John Main was my starter, and after that, Father Keating and centering prayer and distractions. You mean the mind goes all over the place in the beginning, but and also I would find in the evening, particularly, I wanted to read a book or watch TV. I had to struggle to go to take that 20 minutes. But to see how things can change, now I can't wait. First thing in the morning, I go for an hour, and in the evening, right after supper, for an hour. And I want to go. I find a desire. There's that desire. There's an attraction that calls me to spend silent time, be still. And I follow that scripture, be still and know that I am God. And
Mm-hmm.
that whole sense. So for me, it's been a growth kind of a thing, Sue. And I certainly think that it certainly is a powerful form of prayer, powerful form of prayer. And
Yes.
okay, is there anything else you want to say before we ask you about your upcoming courses?
Oh, well, the spiritual journey in general doesn't require us to go anywhere, because God is already with us and within us. So you can practice centering prayer anywhere. Anywhere you can sit down, close your eyes. It could be I'm in our prayer room in our basement right now, but it could be right in the middle of a train station or on an airplane or wherever. Um, just close your eyes, and people will simply think that you're catching a couple of winks, when really what you're doing is entering into the silence. And silence is God's first language. And as the quote goes, all the rest is a very bad translation. So learning to spend time in silence in a method of meditation that goes beyond the thinking mind, which is always working, into that silence is a wonderful thing. So
Yeah, I think
Father Keating refers to God as the divine physician or the divine healer. And what happens in centering prayer, with time, with every meditation, the wounds that we've accumulated over a lifetime begin to be healed. And I'm just going to touch for a second on the false self. Our false self is the way we think of ourselves, which is not correct in the eyes of God. And what we're doing in centering prayer is, over time, dismantling the false self so that our true self, which is that we were made in the image and likeness of God to be pure reflections of Him in our everyday life, that transformation begins to manifest itself in our everyday lives. And not only we can notice it, but other people do as well. And when you first started centering prayer or the other form of meditation, John Maines, people may have said to you, my goodness, there seems to be a change in you. What has happened? What has happened since I saw you last? And when new meditators think about it, they realize that maybe it is this centering prayer, this form of interior prayer or meditation that I began maybe 2 or 3 months ago, that's making a difference in how I come across to people, maybe more relaxed, more open, more kind, more loving, all those fruits of the Spirit, all of those aspects of God that we immerse ourselves in when we practice centering prayer. So it's a very easy form of meditation and prayer, and I feel privileged to be somebody who's passionate about teaching other people.
I can tell you're passionate about it, Sue. Thank God you are. And that's truly your gift. And like I say, everything you said is helping me as I continue in centering prayer. And as you said earlier, I still haven't dropped my Our Fathers and Hail Marys, and
Good.
other kind of prayers as well. And but that one about being still and know that I am God, and I really felt in my life that centering prayer really helped me to put that biblical quotation, to put it into practice. And so it has certainly been a part of my life for many, many years. Now, as far as the transformation is concerned, Sue, I'm not sure how much I've been transformed, though. That's something I can't measure on my own, Sue. But anyway, I don't. It certainly has been for me anyway. That's where I get a lot of my inspirations is during centering prayer time. And I'm wondering, as we close off today, how would people get in touch with you?
I tend to teach centering prayer, give about 4 courses a year. Mark is going to be putting my email on the bottom of the screen. And anybody who is interested in learning centering prayer, just email me and I will send them information about the next course I'm giving.
Well, I know your courses have been very popular last year, and I'm sure no reason why they won't continue to be, because I'm sure that the Spirit is working in you and through you. And somehow the Spirit's touching the hearts of so many people who are today, because of our desire for spirituality. And I think there is that hunger and thirst in people. And I think that in many ways, centering prayer can certainly play as a spiritual practice, can play a tremendous role for good in the lives of people. So, like you, Sue, I highly recommend it. And I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing with us on centering prayer and meditation. So I thank you very much, and I hope this is of interest to the people who will tune in and listen to you, Sue.
Thank you for inviting me, Father. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Sue. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.